Welcome all. In this video, we're going to talk about the browser. To access the browser, you can hit F3 and you've got it there. You can also hit this here and it will expand it as well. And within the browser, you can adjust the size here. And I think I'll just leave it all the way out. For this video, these areas can also be adjusted, as well as this last one here. You can scroll, and there's another one, vertically and horizontally. Okay, at the top you have the browse focus field, and this is just if you have the NNXT, for example, the sampler, and you want to choose some browse for patches, you select that and you can see that this highlights an orange color. You can close that browse focus by clicking there. Now you see it's gray again, and this here is no longer orange as well. So selecting that, this turns orange, that turns orange. Now you know the sounds that you choose here will be loaded into the NNXT. I'll close out of that, and then below this here you've got back and forward navigation. This acts similar to back and forward in a web browser. If you say go into strings here, I'll hit the back button, then we go back to where we were before. If I hit forward, then we're back into the strings. This here, if you click on the arrow or anywhere within, this allows you to go back, retrace your steps further back up. So if I go into Chamberlin strings, I can just click here and go back up to the Reason Factory sound bank. Okay, so here we are, NNXT sampler patches. I double click, I go into bass, I go into pick samples, and I just want to quickly go back up to the Reason sound bank, and we're there. Another way that you can go back, we're going in. This arrow here will go up one folder at a time, and now we're back to the Reason Factory sound bank. Okay, now next you have a search field. Within this, you can just search for something. The area where it will search is whatever folder you have selected here, or wherever you are here actually. And then to the left here, this is where you can choose instruments to load into the rack. So you've got Subtractor, you can double click and it will load, and I'm going to delete that out, go back to instruments. You also can drag and drop. Okay, and I'll delete that again. Another thing you can do is if you know you have a particular patch that you want to use, just drag that patch and it will load it just like that. Okay, next you have effects, and this functions in the same way. You can double click or just drag it, as well as dragging a patch. And then you have utilities here, such as the combinator, the matrix pattern sequencer, the mixer, and so on. And those function in the same way that you can just drag. Next you have your factory sounds that are shipped with Reason, your orchestra sounds, rack extensions if you've purchased any and have them installed. And then this area you can choose, say you're using the Kong drum designer, You can navigate to, if you have your own drum samples and you want to load those in, you can navigate to those there. This is just a quick access to your desktop. And song samples, this folder contains all of the samples that are used within the song that you're working on. You've got several different folders. The assigned folders are assigned samples, contain samples that are actually assigned to an instrument. So the NNXT I have here shows up in this separate subfolder under the assigned samples. If I click there, you can see all of these are samples that are then mapped here within the NNXT. And I'll go close that. The Kong, for this video, I've loaded my own sample. I'm going to click, I load a little sample of a door closing. And so if I click on the Kong, there's my door that I loaded in myself. This would contain any unassigned samples. Maybe you've loaded something and then you deleted it out of the instrument. It would be in this folder, just unassigned and not used in any instruments. This is the self-contained sample, so if you do load your own samples or you use the sample button here and record your own drum sounds, then it's going to self-contain those within your song file when you save. Okay, this recent patches, basically, as the name says, all of the patches that you've kind of gone through recently, it will show there. Showcase. This, you can load some of your favorite patches into here. It's kind of a favorites folder. You can also add a new folder here, and I'll just call it new folder. Folder does have an ER on the end, doesn't it? So it's empty, I haven't loaded anything in, but if I wanted to load some of my favorite patches in here, then you could do that. To get rid of it, just right click and delete. Okay, and another way that you can browse for patches is by using the patch name display area here. If you click there, it will show patches within the folder. So I'll click that and say we choose pads, and I'll load the ARRI additive pad. And if I click here, this displays everything that is within the pad folder up top here. So all of these then show up here. So you see we got Catch Your Breath here, and it's there. So they correspond with each other. The revert down here basically goes back to the patch that you initially chose when you're loading an instrument and first starting out. Something else you can do is select a patch and choose load. That's just another way to load the patch. I'm gonna F4 and bring up the on-screen piano keys. The main way that I navigate and load patches is by using the up and down arrow keys on my keyboard. So if I hit the down arrow, then I go to the evolutions, down arrow, and then you can go back up. And if you look at the maelstrom, you can see that it is changing as I move up. One thing you want to be sure of with this is that this is highlighted orange and that the browse focus is orange up here and highlighted. If it's not, then it's not going to load the patches. I'm going through, but it's not. Then you'll have to double click it. And if you do double click it, it's actually going to load a new instrument. So when you are navigating the patches, you want to be sure that the browse focus is on the current instrument that you want to change the patch for. Okay, and the last thing down at the very bottom here, we have the info and details section. So with this patch, you just have the name and the file extension for Maelstrom. If I go to the song samples, assign samples, my Kong kit, okay, so here we are. This is the sample that I loaded, and then here you have information. It's 24-bit, 44.1 kilohertz. It shows the length and that there's no tempo data in the file. There's volume control for playing back. You can press play here and hear the sample. It works for that as well. If you select auto, then it will just play when you select the item. If auto is not selected, then it's not going to play. You'll have to manually press the play button. Okay, and then you also have import here if you're going through samples. Say on your PC you've chosen this, you can then select import, or you can drag and drop onto a pad if you're using the Kong, for instance. Okay, and I think that that's about everything for the browser. Thank you for watching. Take care.